Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Living in Exhortation. My name is More Mwendwa, and today we'll be talking about presumption versus faith. Do we know the difference? There's a certain book I've been reading called Think Again. It's written by an organizational psychologist called Adam Grant, and it has been challenging my thought process all through, helping me try to understand why I do the things that I do, and challenging me if there is room to do them differently. In this specific context, I have been reading a book, or the book of 1 Samuel chapter 30, where David and his men had just arrived in a town called Ziklag after being sent away by Prince Achish of the Philistines, whom David had joined forces with due to his fear of King Saul's pursuit, trying to kill him. The reason why Prince Achish had asked him to leave is because the other four princes of the Philistines' 5 states, the states are Gath, Ekron, Gaza, Ashdod, and Ashkelon, had refused David joining them in the war against the Israelites, lest he turned against them in the middle of the battle. Now, when David and his men came to Ziklag, their home at that point in time, they found that it had been raided, their property burnt to ashes, as well as their children and their women taken as captives by the Amalekites. During this vulnerable moment, where his troops were not only wailing in sorrow, but were also angry at him to the point of contemplating to kill David by stoning him, David went ahead and consulted the Lord on the matter and asked him, "Shall I pursue them?" Now, he was asking the Lord if he should pursue these enemies. And the Lord answered, "Pursue, for you shall surely overtake them, and without fail recover all." You'll find this in 1 Samuel chapter 30 verse 8. The word of God gives us several more texts after this, where David called upon the Lord on different matters, and he gave him feedback on what to do. This, therefore, is what brings out the question: do we mistake presumption for faith? So, what is presumption? According to the Oxford Dictionary, it is an idea that is taken to be true on the basis of probability. Therefore, what is faith? According to the Word of God, or according to the Bible, faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. This we find in Hebrews chapter 11 verse 1. Having these definitions in mind, it makes me wonder, does it mean many a time we find ourselves living in presumption and calling it faith? Now, hear me out. How many times do we find ourselves making plans, and when we are about to execute them, we ask God to help us achieve these same plans, all along thinking and even believing God is in it all, or we are doing it in God's will? It is like we are hoping He's in agreement with our plans, even though in several occasions we did not involve Him from the beginning of the process. We are expecting Him to agree with what we want to accomplish, and be with us along the way of doing so. Nevertheless, how many times do we sit back and listen to his feedback in regards to our intentions? There was a time David, when he became the king of Israel, went into battle with the Philistines. He inquired of the Lord the first time by asking him, "Shall I go up?" And the Lord said, "Go up, for I will doubtlessly deliver the Philistines into your hand." In this case, he succeeded. He then had a second encounter with the Philistines in battle. By human nature, the first thing that will come to mind would be to follow the instructions like the first time, and you shall clearly gain your victory. This was not the case with David, and we shall find out why. Now, David, in this second instance, inquired of the Lord once again in the same manner. However, the Lord's answer was no. This time round, his instructions were different. He went further ahead and told David, "But fetch a compass behind them and come upon them over against the mulberry trees, and let it be, when you hear the sound of a going in the tops of the mulberry trees, that then you shall bestir yourself, for then shall the Lord go out before you to smite the host of the Philistines." The whole of this encounter, you can find it in 2 Samuel chapter 5 from verse 19 all the way to verse 24. Did you hear what happened there? Same scenario as the first, different instructions in regards to how to attain victory, the Lord's way. My question here is, how many of us not only have the humility, but the patience as well to seek advice from the Lord on a matter that you have dealt with before, of which you overcame? How tempting is it to tell yourself, "I did it once and succeeded. I can do it again," all through assuming that the Lord approves of your plan. Even more so, how many times would we come face to face with the same plot and do it the same way as the last time we succeeded, by God's grace, thinking that it is the will of God? In all these scenarios, I know we are at fault at one point in our lives in making decisions in this manner. In addition to this, how many times do we seek help from the Lord on a matter before us, and yet we do not wait for Him to give us an answer or direction on what we should do? We go and engage in our own methods of execution, believing that He has blessed the work of our hands and that we are executing the plan according to God's will. In so many instances, we assume a lot while making plans and involving God in them. Presumption, in this case, is consulting or not consulting God in a matter and going ahead and executing it, having the confidence in ourselves that God is in it, yet He may not even have sanctioned it. Faith, on the other hand, is turning to God in regards to our plans and having the humility as well as the patience to listen to what He has to say about them. Then, with His feedback on the matter, we move confidently, knowing and believing that He is faithful and true to fulfill them. He can never deny Himself or who He is. Food for thought? I choose to believe so. As we ponder on that, we've come to the end of our episode. Thank you so much for listening in. Until the next time, take care of yourselves and have a good one.